I'm Nicea DeGering.
And I'm Doug Jessop. Everyone has a story. Stories have power. They help us understand each other.
And these stories deserve to be passed down. It is time for Family Heritage Stories.
Welcome to Family Heritage Stories, where we help people understand where they came from. Things like traditions, values, and culture.
How are those stories passed down from generation to generation? Through words, through deeds, through stories.
We all benefit from heroes among us. Now, they're going to say, it's just part of the job. But it's more than that. It's time for Hero Salute Stories. Hi guys, this is Doug Jessop. With me today, Kimmi Wolf. Now, I admit, Kimmi, the biggest reason why I wanted to interview you is because everybody loves a love story. And your parents have the most incredible love story, but it's also definitely triumphing over trials. So first question out of the gate, where were you born?
I was born in Quang Ngai, Vietnam.
Okay. I'm guessing that, Vietnam's kind of an interesting place. Was there anything special going on when you were born?
Well, there was a little skirmish you may have heard of called the Vietnam War. And I was born in 1972, so right in the midst of things.
Wow. Okay. Now, this is one where it gets a little tender because, you got to figure out all this stuff. But, okay, so you're living in the U.S. When did you come to the United States?
In 1975, so I was 3 years old.
Okay, and there's got to be a story about this because I know there is. So, okay, you're gonna have to dish on me, okay?
Well, it all really started with a love story. I was a bit player in the things at that time. My parents, my stepfather, and just from here on, I'm just going to say that he's my father.
Yep.
He met my mother when she was pregnant with me. So he knowingly started a relationship with a woman that was carrying someone else's child. And that child was me. And so he was actually there when I was born. So there is not a day that he has not been my father.
Wow. Okay, and so your mother's name?
Her name is Shao.
Okay. And she's Vietnamese?
Correct.
Okay, and then where is we'll call him father, where's your father from?
Well, his people are from Germany, but he grew up in central Illinois.
Okay. Now, how did he get over, don't say train, plane, or automobile, but he was there. Was it part of the war or was it some other kind of mission?
He was there as part of the war. When the war started, he was in law school. And when he graduated, the war was still going on and he was drafted because I think they probably saw a bookish young man. They thought probably wouldn't do well on the front lines. So they chose him for military intelligence in the Army.
Okay.
And so he learned Vietnamese in El Paso, Texas.
Wow.
And then from El Paso, after he was done with his Vietnamese language school, then he went to Vietnam. So I was there. I was born living there in Vietnam with my mother, and my father's tour was up. And so they sent him back home. They continued to correspond. Looking back, I've dated. The thought of the term wasn't there, but ghosting. What a ghosting opportunity, right? But they continued, and he, after leaving, being drafted and leaving, staying alive and leaving and going back to the States, he went back to Vietnam for us and worked there as a civilian.
Whoa. Wow. Okay, you'd been there in war, and now he's actually going
unwillingly there in war.
And now, when he comes back, is the war still going on?
Still going on.
Wow.
Yeah. So in 75, you hear a lot of stories about babies, families being, airlifted out of Vietnam. We were living in Saigon at the time. So the fall of Saigon, that was us.
Oh, wow.
And so we left Saigon, now Ho Chi Minh City, and because of his position there as an American civilian, working at a non-government organization there, we were able to get enough advance notice where we were able to get a flight, out of Vietnam back to the States.
Wow. I mean, that's just, your dad's a hero. Number one, he's a stand-up guy, but that's pretty incredible. Now, there's a picture that you have with your mom and her sister. That's, again, another one of those love stories that I'm not sure everybody would be willing to do the sacrifice for. Tell me about what happened there.
So until you're an adult and you have your own household and, you have your own bills and everything, I never knew really what it took to welcome my aunt, my mother's sister, with open arms, no questions. So after we came to the States in 1975, the organization that my father worked with in Vietnam, they contacted him and said, we were able to secure a flight for your wife's sister, pick her up in St. Louis.
Wow.
Here is the information. And so my aunt was 17 years old, came straight from Vietnam. I hope she kind of understood what was happening, but she really had no way to even envision the life that she was walking into. America, that's not really a concept that, that you would have. There's no internet, so you can't Google it, right? But we picked her up. She came off the flight and she lived with me. So she was basically my older sister. I grew up an only child, so that was the closest thing I had to an older sister.
So here's this little girl, growing up in Havana, Illinois, and without sounding funky, you may or may not look a lot like the people around you. How was that?
I could not have imagined a better childhood for me. Could not have. I grew up across the street from my grandparents. They were actually my babysitters in the summertime. Had lunch with them every day. And so did my dad. When, he got his lunch break, he would actually come to his parents' house where they were babysitting me. We had lunch together every weekday in the summertime. I did not know any different. You couldn't have told me that I was any different than anybody else in that town. And that is a testament to inviting and bringing in immigrants who don't necessarily look like you, they don't talk like you, bringing them into your community and making them feel at home.
That's awesome.
It really is.
Thank you for joining us for this special episode of Family Heritage Stories. If you would like to help us continue with this great and important programming, please visit herosalutestories.org.
Stories have power.
In this episode of Family Heritage Stories, the magic Asian man, Naathan Phan, shares his story.
Mai đầu nở rộ đón xuân sang, trời đất giao hòa, lòng người rộn rã. Sức sống mùa xuân tràn đầy hứng khởi, Tết vẹn nguyên đầm ấm xuân vầy. Đón năm mới, lan tỏa yêu thương cùng Vietnam Airlines.
There's a special bond between grandparents and grandkids.
Tell me a story about your grandma or grandpa.
One of my grandfathers he was a farmer living up in North Dakota, and he lost his wife when my mother was 11 years old, but his heritage is from Norway. His family came out to the old western frontier, which at that time was North Dakota.
Broadcasting from Lanny Bernard Gallery, you're watching Family Heritage Stories. We'll be right back.
Did you know that you could get help saving your family heritage stories with a private interview with me or Doug?
Contact Krista at fedorafoundation.org to schedule your interview.
Michelle Sala, did you hear about the fire that broke out at the circus? It was intense. Did you hear about the guy who invented the lifesaver? I heard he made a mint.
Oh.
Do you know how you catch a squirrel? You climb up a tree and act like a nut.
Hey. Everybody comes from somewhere.
What does heritage mean to you?
Hi guys, this is Doug Jessop, and I am broadcasting from the Princess. What is it? The
We're on the Island Princess.
Island Princess.
Welcome to the Island Princess. Love, exciting. Don't sing more than 3 seconds though, or else have to
You
pay
know
royalties.
what? Totally serious. This is Naathan Phan. I met him on this cruise. He is a world-renowned magician, and not kidding, I was actually interviewing the captain and the cruise director the other day, and tried to get them to sing that song.
Yeah, they wouldn't do it.
They tried.
Oh, they tried.
They
yes.
tried.
Yeah.
We needed you.
Yeah.
Just saying. Wow.
I'm aboard. Yeah.
Now, here's what's funny, okay? He's a magician, and you've seen him on shows like...
Masters of Illusion, Penn and Teller Foolers, America's Got Talent, Wizard Wars, Tengo Talento, Mucho Talento. Pretty much any TV show that features like solo individual magicians I've been on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to go back a little bit because, you know, you were talking about talking, and geez almighty, okay, last name Phan, but you do have a decidedly non-Asian accent.
Yes,
So
that is
do
absolutely
tell.
true. When I was 1, I moved out to Glasgow, Scotland with my family.
Okay,
Lived there.
from where?
From Southern California.
Oh, okay.
So born in Southern California, moved to Scotland when I was a kid, when I was 1. I lived there for 10 years, then I moved back to Southern California. I spent most of my life there, and then a year and a half in Las Vegas. But yeah, so it's Scottish. I know, people are always surprised when they hear that I'm Scottish, because I look more Irish.
One of the things we also talked about earlier was the influence that our parents and our grandparents have.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have an interesting story about your grandfather.
Yes. So which story though remains to be seen.
Well, we've got time. You can tell as many as you want.
Okay, exactly. So the my grandfather was a military man back in Vietnam. He taught at something that was kind of like the equivalent of like West Point in Vietnam. But he always had like this very puckish side to him. But you know, when you're growing up in Vietnam in the 1950s, you don't really get to show off the fun, artistic side. And he loved to sing. He had a really gorgeous baritone voice, just like this deep voice. Like I can still hear him in my head walking around the house every once in a while. He loved Some Enchanted Evening for some reason. Like he would walk around the Some Enchanted Evening. But you know, a wonderful man. And so when I was about 5, he knew 2 magic tricks. So he introduced me to magic tricks when I was about 5 years old. Started off with that thing where like he just took a cup and a napkin, and he balled it up, and he was like doing basically it's called not 3-card Monty. It is called the 3-shell game, essentially. So he was just showing me how you can like sneak the ball out, pretend to load it, which are also the fundamental kind of stepping stones into what we call cups and balls in the world of magic. And so he showed that to me, and something in my head just kind of like clicked. I was like, this is amazing. Like this is, I don't know what it was, whether it's the facsimile of real actions that are doing something else, the illusion of this, the amount of fun that you are having that you could bring to the audience was just, it just kind of like immediately just registered with me. And so he started buying me like magic kits and things like that, books, and he would have me like, he would show me off whenever relatives would come and visit. Sometimes he would have me give away the props. It was very weird. He bought them for me, so I guess that's, his prerogative. But I was like, but this is mine. He's like, well, you should give it to your aunt. She would really appreciate that. I'm like, oh, all right, fine.
About how old would you have been?
This was like 6 years old.
Oh, wow.
Actually, what I do, I kind of just have to give them the whole rundown. Like, I'm a magician who also sings to stand-up comedy and celebrity impressions, and then also some shows I do ventriloquism, some shows I climb inside a 6-foot balloon, some shows there's like a million things. I guess I'm an entertainer, multifaceted entertainer with an emphasis on magic and storytelling, or as I like to say, sleight of hand singing and stand-up.
Naathan Phan, ladies and gentlemen.
Hết sức lưu ý, sữa đậu nành pha mi ngon sánh mịn. Nay bổ sung thêm canxi, âm thầm giúp xương chắc khỏe hơn. Pha mi canxi, ngon sánh mịn, chắc khỏe xương.
Everyone loves a great success story.
Hi guys, it's Doug Jessop. Welcome to this episode of Family Heritage Stories. With me today, Jeff Wood. You talked about jobs, and you were in Los Angeles with a Japanese job. What kind of job were you doing at the time?
I was an auditor, so I was with one of the big 4 accounting firms,
Okay.
working in the Japanese practice, auditing Hitachi Tools and Honda, some of those.
So, what are the little companies? Those little
Yeah.
companies. Yeah, okay. So now auditing, for the people that don't know it, is basically accounting, from what I
Accounting,
gather.
yeah.
Okay. So you've got a little name on the shirt, and I know how to pronounce it, but I want to make sure I don't screw it up, so I'm going to have you say it.
Yeah, Elysium Financial Wealth Management. So I got out of auditing. I was a controller and a VP of finance for a while, but I really I got into financial advising about 11 years ago. I did a brief stint when I was in college, right around when 9/11 hit. So that was way back in the day, but then I left and did all that other stuff and came back to it and found that I really love sitting down with clients and helping them with their financial issues, helping them with tax advice and retirement and savings and structuring and just keeping as much of their wealth for them rather than paying it to the government. And so we've made a career out of it. We have a firm down the street called Elysium Financial Wealth Management. So it's been fun.
Well, disclaimer, he's my wealth advisor, just so you know. Okay. So just out of curiosity, we have a lot of people that are retired or thinking about retirement that watch this show. What's something that you think people may not realize, or something that could help them either save money or keep money?
There's a lot. I mean, we give a lot of tax tricks, and sometimes people think that they have to have a lot of money to go to a financial advisor. Most people that we hear from think, I didn't know that you could help somebody like me. And that's our bread and butter. Most of the people out there, we sit down and do a free financial review. So it doesn't cost a thing. They're not in the cab with the meter running when they come and sit with us. It's just a relaxed conversation for an hour, hour and a half, just getting to know them, their situation, their financial side, if you will. We'll ask a lot of questions. We focus a lot on education, and then we'll discuss in particular what types of things that they may not realize that they could be doing. But we like to tailor it for the individual, because everybody's different. Everybody's in a different spot financially. They have different things going on. They just don't know what they don't know.
Okay. I'm going to put this in reverse a little bit and say, okay, you can't really, turn back time. I've not found the time machine yet.
Yeah.
But for the people out there that are younger, what's the biggest piece of advice? Let's say somebody's, 35, 40 years old. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What's something that they should be doing now that maybe they haven't thought about?
Oh, so many things. One thing that comes to mind is delayed gratification. That's something that I know it's, not fun to talk about. We all want now. But if we can just live a little bit below our means and save, make it a part of our normal activity. We have a car payment, make it a retirement payment and just put money away. Just, make it a constant. If you get a raise, put a little bit of that away and, increase that. You can up your lifestyle a little bit, but too many of us, I think we go throughout life and we think, well, hey, I finally got the raise, so we can take the big vacation. We can, now we can afford to do this or that, which is true. Life is expensive. But if we can just delay a little bit of our gratification and put money away, our future selves will thank us.
A little later in the show, we find the story behind one of the treasures remembered here at Anthony's Fine Art and Antiques.
I was just interviewed by Doug Jessop, and he is a natural storyteller. And he found my story because I would have told you that I didn't have one. But his passion, his enthusiasm, and his true interest really brought out some things and memories that I really didn't think anyone would care about. But he's made it into a wonderful experience for me.
Do your kids and grandkids know your stories? This is Doug Jessop. Part of the reason we do Family Heritage Stories is to give ideas and examples of how to share those stories. If you need help, we're here to help give you a private interview with either myself or Nicea DeGering. For availability and pricing, contact Krista at fedorafoundation.org.
You learn a lot about traditions, values, and culture when you travel.
It's time for Vacation Locations.
Whenever someone asks me where they should go in Vietnam, I find it difficult to answer. Should I point them to the mountains in the north? Should I suggest the beaches and the islands in the center, or the riverside towns in the south? Every destination in Vietnam is different. Each one has its own character and its own story to tell. The only way to know which part of Vietnam you'll love is to see it for yourself. Find your Vietnam.
I'm Naathan Phan. You're watching Family Heritage Family Heritage Stories.
Objects with stories are treasures remembered. It's time now for a visit with Dr. Micah Christensen.
Hi, it's Doug Jessop. With me today, Dr. Micah Christensen with Anthony's Fine Art.
This would be familiar to most people who lived in Asia because it's on the national flags of Cambodia and Burma. It's an object that's known as a vajra, and it means thunder and diamond. It's the weapon of the gods, or the weapon of a Buddhist priest. It's the idea that a vajra is indestructible as a tool. But there are all kinds of things in our lives that need to be destroyed. False images of ourselves, false ideas in the world, and the vajra is the tool as thunder or a diamond that will symbolically break through, like the teachings, the Dharma, through those falsities and show us the truth. This is about the most elaborate vajra I have ever seen, and you see them in museums occasionally. This came from the Kathmandu Valley in Nepal. It was brought to us by the daughter of a man who was an anthropologist that lived there in the 1890s. You have here the petals of a lotus leaf, which is a very important symbol in Buddhism. In Buddhism, the lotus plant comes from what is dirty water which is silt and mud, and it grows out of that mud and comes up on the surface of water, clean, pure, and beautiful. That is symbolic of the soul's journey through the Dharma, through the teachings, the Eightfold Path. And this is the center that it's growing out of. And these come together, growing out of the lotus at the top. And you would hold it in the center as a symbol of all of those things, a truth at the center of the lotus that's grown, and they form together this very powerful representation of that teaching. This is made out of turquoise, carnelian, and then this gilt bronze. It's the kind of thing that you would have seen in a temple and would have been the physical symbol of the teachings of the Buddha.
Everyone has a story. Objects with stories, like this one, are treasures remembered. Everyone has a story.
Sometimes those stories are told through music.
What makes you smile? Spry Natural Xylitol mints make me smile. I think it might help you too.
It's our honor to be able to help people remember where they came from.
The Fedora Foundation supports the collection, preservation, and distribution of diverse stories of traditions, values, and culture, right here on TV and online as well at familyheritagestories.org.
How do you want to be remembered? With another episode of Family Heritage Stories, I'm Nicea DeGering.
And I'm Doug Jessop.